the 26th of June, 1943. An airfield at Manston, on the coast of Kent. A shape appears over the channel, low and wrong. It is a fighter, or what is left of one. The engine is coughing. The canopy is scored with holes. Chunks of the wings are missing. Ground crews stop what they are doing and start running. The plane touches down, staggers, and stops. When they count the holes later, there will be more than 200. 20-millimeter cannon shells have punched through the fuselage. Machine gun rounds have chewed the tail. One propeller blade is bent. Fuel is leaking. And still, somehow, the pilot inside is alive. His name is Robert S. Johnson. And the machine that just carried him across the English Channel, the machine that should not have flown at all, is a Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. This is the story of the fighter that could survive almost anything. To understand why Johnson lived that day, you have to go back 3 years to a drawing. Board in 1940. The place is Farmingdale, on Long Island. The man at the board is Alexander Kartveli, a Georgian-born engineer who had fled the Russian Revolution as a boy, studied in Paris, come to America, and now worked as the chief designer at a company called Republic Aviation. The United States Army Air Corps has just issued a requirement for a new fighter: high altitude, long range, heavy armament. Kartveli reads the requirements and makes a decision that most engineers would have argued against. He will not compromise anywhere. He will build the plane around the biggest engine in America. That engine is the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp, 18 cylinders, 2 rows, air-cooled, 2,000 horsepower. ITIS, the size of a small car and heavier than one. Nothing about ITIS elegant. Everything about ITIS unbreakable. Around that engine, Kartveli builds the rest. A steel tube fuselage, turbo supercharger, ducting, running the whole length of the plane. 8 50 caliber Browning machine guns spread across 2 enormous wings. Armor plate behind the pilot's seat, thick enough to stop a rifle round. When the prototype finally rolls out, it weighs almost 7 tons empty. Loaded for combat, closer to 8. Test pilots take one look at it and start calling it the Jug. Some say ITIS, short for Juggernaut. Others say ITIS, because the fuselage looks like a milk bottle turned on its side. The name sticks. And when the first Thunderbolts land in England in the winter of 1942, the men who have to fly them are not impressed. The 8th of April, 1943. The 4th Fighter Group takes its new Thunderbolts up over the channel for their first combat sweep. It does not go well. The radios fail. The formation gets bounced. The Thunderbolt cannot climb with a Spitfire. It cannot turn with a Focke-Wulf 190. Above 20,000 feet, its bulk feels less like a weapon and more like a punishment. German pilots, looking down from 30,000 feet, see the big American machines struggling for altitude and burst out laughing on the radio. They call them flying milk bottles. They dive on them. They shoot some down, and they carry the story back to their airfields as a joke. The Americans have sent them fat targets. But something the German pilots do not see up there in the thin air is what the Thunderbolt has been designed to do. It has not been designed to climb. It has not been, designed to turn. It has been designed to dive. At altitude, the P-47 is heavy and slow. In a dive, it is a falling anvil. It can build up speeds that tear the wings off other fighters, and its huge engine keeps pulling all the way down. Pilots learn within weeks that if they cannot outclimb a 190, they can. Outrun one straight down. Push the stick forward. Point the nose at the ground. And no plane in the Luftwaffe can follow. Which brings us back to Robert Johnson on the 26th of June, 1943. Johnson is a 23-year-old fighter pilot from Lawton, Oklahoma. He flies with the 56th Fighter Group, the Wolfpack, under a colonel named Hubert Zemke. Their base is at Halesworth, in Suffolk. Their job is to escort American bombers deep into occupied Europe. That morning, 16 Thunderbolts of the 62nd Squadron are covering a raid on the airfield at Villacoublay, outside Paris. 250 B-17s are hitting the target. Johnson is flying in the rear of the formation, which is exactly the wrong place to be. Somewhere over northern France, they are jumped by Focke-Wulfs from Jagdgeschwader, one of the most experienced fighter wings in the Luftwaffe. The bounce is perfect. Cannon shells hit Johnson's plane in the first pass. His engine catches fire. He goes into a plane. Spin. He tries to bail out. The canopy jams. He rides the burning plane down through 10,000 feet, and somewhere in the dive, the flames go out, and the engine impossibly keeps running. Half blind from hydraulic fluid in his eyes, he levels off and starts limping toward the channel. Then a shape slides in beside him, a single Focke-Wulf 190, close enough that Johnson can see the pilot's face. The German looks at the American plane, the shredded canopy, the missing chunks of wing, the trail of smoke, and does not understand how it is still flying. Then he opens fire. For the next several minutes, the Focke-Wulf pilot empties his guns into Johnson's Thunderbolt at point-blank range. He fires. He falls behind to reload. He catches up. He fires again. Rounds punch through the armor plate behind Johnson's seat and stop. Rounds punch through the wings and out the other side. Nothing vital breaks. Eventually, the German pilot runs out of ammunition. He pulls alongside Johnson one last time. He looks at the American plane, still flying. He shakes his head. He rocks his wings a salute pilote and turns back toward France. Johnson lands at Manston with more than 200 holes in his aircraft. The Thunderboltus written off, the Pilotus not. 2 months later, he is flying combat again. Word of what happened travels fast through the 8th Air Force. In the pilot's briefing rooms, the joke about milk bottles quietly dies. In its place, a new idea takes hold. The A.T. Thunderboltus, the plane that comes home. And through the second half of 1943 and into 1944, it starts to come home very often. 56th Fighter Group pilots become the first American aces of the European theater. Robert Johnson finishes the war with 27 kills. Francis Gabby Gabreski finishes with 28, the top American ace in Europe. Hub Zemke leads them from the front. Between them, the Wolfpack shoots down more than 660 German aircraft, the highest score of any American fighter group in the European War. They do it, in part, because their planes keep coming back. A Thunderbolt can lose a cylinder off the engine, one of 18, and still fly. It can lose a propeller blade and still fly. It can catch a burst that would kill a Spitfire or a Mustang and still put its pilot on the ground alive. Then, in the summer of 1944, the war changes. The 6th of June, 1944, Allied troops land in Normandy, and the P-47, which had spent a year proving itself as a bomber escort, is handed a new job. Take out the roads, take out the trains, take out the tanks. The Thunderbolt is not a purpose-built ground attack aircraft. It has no armor plate under the belly. Its engine is up front in the direct line of every rifle shot fired from below. Every specialist would tell you ITIS the wrong plane for the job. The specialists are wrong, because the P-47 can carry two 500-pound bombs. It can carry rockets. It can carry a belly tank of napalm, and, with those 8 50-caliber guns pointed at the ground, it can turn a locomotive into scrap iron in a single strafing run. By the autumn of 1944, Thunderbolts of the 9th Air Force are hunting German transport across northern France day after day, week after week. Squadrons keep score in trucks and rail cars destroyed. Divisions of the Wehrmacht start to move only at night, because they know what happens if they are caught on a road in daylight. Then comes the Falaise Pocket in August, a German army trapped in a shrinking bag of countryside, its columns jammed head to tail on narrow French roads. Thunderbolts arrive in waves and turn the retreat into a slaughter. The road out of Falaise, when ITIS over, is a corridor of burnt vehicles miles long. Then comes the Battle of the Bulge in December, a last German offensive through the Ardennes, timed for winter weather that will keep Allied aircraft on the ground, and for a week it works. But the weather breaks on the 23rd of December. The sky clears, and when the German columns look up, what they see is thunderbolts. Pilots return to base with wings shredded, engines missing cylinders, canopies gone. Ground crews shake their heads and start counting the holes. And the planes go back up the next morning. By the end of the war, more than 15,000 Thunderbolts have been built. They have flown more than 500,000 combat sorties in Europe and the Mediterranean. More than any other American fighter. They have shot down thousands of German aircraft. They have destroyed thousands of tanks, trucks, and locomotives. And they have brought their pilots home at a rate no one in 1942 would have believed. The Jug was never the fastest fighter of the war. It was not the most nimble. It could not outturn a Spitfire or outclimb a Mustang. On paper, it should have been outclassed. The moment it entered service. But paper does not fly, and in the sky, what mattered was not the number on the chart. What mattered was whether the plane could take a hit and whether the man inside it could see his family again. The Thunderbolt could, and it did. Alexander Kartveli, drawing his ugly, oversized fighter around the biggest engine in America, had understood something about war that the specialists sometimes forget. You do not win the sky with elegance. You win it with the plane that comes home. So was the P-47 Thunderbolt the toughest fighter of the war? Or does that title belong to a Soviet plane the Germans came to fear even more? A plane built from steel, flown low, and impossible to kill? Drop your answer in the comments. If this story is worth remembering, hit the like button. It tells YouTube to show these stories to more people who still care about the men who flew them. Next time, the Soviet ground attack plane the Germans called the Black Death, a machine so heavily armored that Luftwaffe cannon fire literally bounced off its hull. A plane that Joseph Stalin declared as essential to the Red Army as air and bread. Subscribe so it lands in your feed. Thanks for watching.